Hey, Gotham Geek Girl here. It's time for another review. Let's talk about the upcoming Warner Brothers Godzilla vs. Kong, The New Empire.
And the great apes.
The film, it's the fifth entry in Legendary Pictures' MonsterVerse franchise, dropping in theaters March 29th. Overall, the latest film is easily forgettable. So much of this movie didn't work for me. While it was a blast to watch on the big screen for the fight scenes, it was not enough to save this movie. I was basically laughing a lot of the moments that weren't supposed to be funny. It felt like it was ripping off Guardians of the Galaxy a lot. I'll get further into that, but it really just kept taking me out of the movie. The latest installment, Godzilla and the Almighty Kong, face a colossal threat hidden deep within the planet, challenging their very existence and the survival of the human race. I did not give a shit about the humans in this movie. The film franchise consists of 38 films, 33 Japanese produced, and 5 American. So it's constantly trying to reinvent itself. The epic kaiju film, we see the team up that we've been waiting a long time to see as Godzilla and Kong join forces to take down a new threat to the world. I will say the new Empire looked absolutely incredible. I'm gonna get back to the visuals a little bit and what worked, but for me, um, I wasn't a fan of this. The New Empire, it's like I said, it's the fifth feature in the MonsterVerse franchise. It's gonna follow Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island 2017, and Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019, and Godzilla vs. Kong 2021. And there's also been 2 television entries in the franchise, the anime series Skull Island in 2023, and on Netflix, the live-action series Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, which released on Apple TV. So Godzilla vs. Kong, the filmmaker Adam Wingard, he returns to direct. He returns to direct for the New Empire, and we're going to see some returning cast members, including Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, and Kaylee Howell. British actor Dan Stevens, who worked with the director previously on the thriller The Guest in 2014, he's going to join the franchise as a new lead in the New Empire. He sports a really bad Australian accent. Other newcomers include Fala Chen, Alex Ferns, and Rachel House. The script comes from Terry Rossio, Simon Barrett, and Jeremy Slater. While Rebecca Hall returns as Dr. Eileen Andrews, most of the characters from the last few films, they've pretty much disappeared with no explanation. One thing this particular film fails miserably in is the presentation in its human characters and their purpose. While we're not necessarily here for the humans, it's fortunate because the franchise seems to replace or kill off cast members pretty often, minus this one. But most of the characters from from the last few films, including 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong, also directed by Adam Wingard, they've disappeared without explanation. So our main character now is Dr. Eileen Andrews, Rebecca Hall. She plays a very protective, adoptive mother to Gia, played by Kaylee Hottel, who is a child member of the Iwi tribe. She's I believe, the last surviving member, and she can communicate with Kong directly via sign language. So some viewers may miss another human protagonist, Alexander Skarsgård's Dr. Nathan Lind. His absence is kind of explained as he was seemingly setting in shop in Hollow Earth, but not really mentioned in this time. And I'm kind of upset. I would have liked to see Dr. Lind return. He's being replaced by an eccentric, kooky veterinarian to the Titans, played by Dan Stevens, and he comes off as like a bad ripoff of Star-Lord and Ace Ventura. They even make an Ace Ventura reference. He's like a poorly done, exaggerated Australian accent. We're also joined again by Bernie Hayes, who's played by Brian Tyree Henry. He was like the weird conspiracy podcaster, blogger, documentarian from the last film, and he happens to be far more annoying this time around. What else is annoying is how his character is still convinced that no one believes him about Godzilla, but Godzilla's been chilling all over the planet, and he gets news coverage quite often. So it's kind of annoying on his character's behalf. And then throughout the entirety of the movie, the
I
humans,
have
they're
seen
all
everything.
incredibly annoying, especially amongst the incredibly corny dialogue and forced exposition. All the comedic moments were forced. They were drowned out by terrible acting, out of place, overarching, distracting soundtracks, completely
So you
ripping
never
off Guardians of the
asked.
Galaxy, not just with the like eccentric characters and their personalities, like Spaceship Quest and the score. Everything felt like an 80s pop star. It was so out of place. Back to the exposition, Dr. Eileen Andrews and Bernie Hayes, they have to verbally explain every single detail to the viewer. They also just happen to know everything about Hollow Earth without much discovery or struggle. This like hundreds and thousands of year old place. They kind of figure everything out too quickly. There's too many plot holes and inconsistencies. Kong easily found Hollow Earth and he just stumbles upon his other Kong giants. Meanwhile, Godzilla's up on the surface. Like I said, he's just chilling. The scientists spot him literally napping in the Colosseum. And he just like stomps his way around the world through Europe, through Northern Africa. And he spends most of the movie exploring, pretty much like a good hour and a half runtime. He's just walking around and he's absorbing nuclear power because he senses that there's like upcoming trouble. So back to Hollow Earth, something is very wrong deep down below in Kong's world. Gia has been having like strange dreams and she's been making like these drawings, which lead Dr. Eileen Andrews and Bernie Hayes to an expedition where they are now traveling into Hollow Earth. So the movie forcibly attempts to establish a lore and mythology for the MonsterVerse franchise, making Gia somewhat of like a messiah among her found people. It was inevitably poor judgment and a big mistake, loaded with expositional dialogue. Like I said, every single thing had to be spelled out to the audience by both Dr. Eileen Andrews and Bernie Hayes. Every single piece of dialogue was basically to establish this mythology, and it really took away like any remaining suspense. We pretty much knew what was going to happen by what they read off the wall. Bernie Hayes was able to understand like these jillion-year-old people speak like their language. He just somehow understood and knew how to proceed. The only interesting scene is the impending final battle sequence, which I'm going to get to soon. Basically, Gia just like stood by a door and awakened Mothra, and this was so underwhelming and quite ridiculous. Like I said, how everything was figured out so easily. Essentially, Mothra was pointless and was just like a plot device and didn't do anything aside from grab Godzilla. Hollow Earth, calling Godzilla, why did it take so long when it took Kong like 2 minutes? I thought they were like telepathically calling Godzilla the whole movie. Kong had like a Winter Soldier arm. How did it get there? I don't know if I missed something, but how were they so easily able to activate it when a lot of their tech wasn't working? Hayes' camera was working when all the other tech went out. Apparently, the movie had an R rating. Aside from pulling apart reptiles, it was very PG. It held back a lot. It tried way too hard to be funny. There was no emotional level whatsoever. Even in the destruction, it failed to show any like loss of life. There was no impact, no repercussions, no damage control, no nothing. The 2014 film was kind of like a reboot to the original Toho series. And I really enjoyed the 2014 film. I thought it balanced like, the Titans and the humans very well. Then there was Scott Island, King of the Monsters, and they started to build more of like a shared universe. And Godzilla vs. Kong wasn't technically great, but it did deliver and it was like a beautiful, like visual, spectacular cooperation between like both of them, the crazy nuclear lizard and this huge, gigantic ape. It was fun to watch. And two monsters, finally got to meet. So, like I said, I really enjoyed 2014 more. I didn't necessarily care for King of the Monsters, and then this one is probably my least favorite. Minus one was heavily focused on humans, but like on the trauma in relation to the atomic bomb. So minus one is a beautiful, spectacular movie. You can completely separate from that, from this. People argue that this isn't meant to be serious or about humans, but the movie really failed to establish any impactful, lasting lore, any lasting consequences. There was no story at all. The effects were visually stunning. Like I said, it was gorgeous. There was like a lot of blue and pink hues. The tech was on point. The Titans actually looked incredible. The fight scenes were also well done. I really enjoyed Kong's battle axe and the Beast Glove in action was awesome. It was very like Transformers-y. But Star King wasn't as impressionable or dangerous as I would have liked. Ultimately, for a major villain, who's I guess lives up to like 1,000 years, he essentially just relied on Whiplash and Shimo. Shimo was the unidentifiable reptilian like terrestrial titan that was imprisoned, and Whiplash doesn't really seem strong enough to control her. So it was pretty upsetting. Then there's like no Planet Uprising, Planet of the Apes. The final fight scene was really rushed. Like I said, the final fight scene was really cool. There were some dope fight scenes, like them attacking on each other and fighting together. But the final boss scene was overwhelming, and overall, it was like 10 minutes long. Like the whole movie basically was like an hour of and like 45 minutes of Godzilla chomping around, the humans like being all Laura Crofty and figuring everything out in 2 seconds. And then the last like 10 minutes is a rushed fight scene, which was impressive, but overall, Not a great time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think.